This
together.
conference will now be recorded.
9th at 6 p.m. We're going to hold the pledge and stuff for the regular meeting at 6:30. Thank you. So we'll, Mr. Klein, if you would please take over and start your proportion of this. And we're going to try and keep this to 30 minutes so the public is not waiting for the normal meeting past 6:30, if possible.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much. We wanted to provide Environmental Design Group an opportunity to present the information that they've been collecting over the course of 2020. As you know, we consulted with them beginning in January of 2020 to do a 10-year capital improvement plan that would focus on the areas of trail, path development, water and sewer, as well as stormwater facilities, some of the flooding issues that the township's experiencing. So they've been working throughout the year on all three of those elements. I've been sharing a lot of that information with the board. We had a lot of public involvement on the multimodal trail side of things. That's the most impactful to the residents and something that we want to gain as much public participation from the residents. It was a challenge definitely with COVID, but to try and, typically those are in-person type charrette meetings, but EDG did a nice job of bringing in the public the best we could and putting some information out there. So
Mr. Klein, can I interrupt you for one moment? I apologize. Some procedural thing I should take care of. I don't know if our fiscal officer is on recording this, so we might have to do a secretary report to them if she's not. I don't know if.
I think Bruce, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure. Continue, I apologize.
No problem. So yeah, a lot of that information has been shared with you already. It is a lot of information, but we wanted to showcase the work EDG did, allow the trustees an opportunity to ask any questions about these three elements, also get some information out there for the public. We've been sharing this meeting with all our boards and commissions and putting it out there for anybody that would like to attend. We'll continue. Obviously this is a lot of information that's going to be confined to 30 minutes. But we'll continue to put this information out there after the meeting and feed any questions that we get from any residents about any of these three elements. So without taking up any more time, I'll introduce at least Dwayne for the time being. Dwayne Grohl, if you want to introduce yourself and the team. I'm not exactly sure who's presenting. We can make anybody an organizer. We have the slides here, or if somebody from your team would like to share the presentation, they can share their screen as well. So Dwayne, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Loudon. And can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, good. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you, trustees, and thank you, Loudon, for giving us the opportunity as we have finalized this capital improvement plan. We've held it to a minimal amount of slides tonight due to the time, and we'll have time for questions. If there are additional questions and we're getting behind, we certainly questions can be funneled to Loudon or Janice, and we can answer those, post meeting. We do have the finalized document prepared as well. It's about 110 pages, I think, or so. So there's a lot of background information that we aren't going to talk about tonight, but critical to the development as each project that's identified, prioritized project is identified. You have that background, so as you're working on the capital planning and the capital stack for each project. So with us tonight, we have Michelle Johnson, who's going to take over and lead the presentation. We have Dave McCallops, who's going to focus on water, drinking water and sanitary sewer, and Catherine Homick, who's going to focus on stormwater and greenways. So, and Michelle will start with multimodal. So I'll turn it over to Michelle. Again, thank you for your time and working collaboratively on this to get started on the next 10 years of development in Copley in terms of the things, the elements that you identified, Loudon. Thank you.
Wayne, there are some technical difficulties. Michelle has been trying for the last 15 minutes to get on the call and cannot. So she said it's spinning and chugging, and she's unfortunately not available to jump in.
Okay. You want to jump to Dave? When we start with then, Catherine, the stormwater then?
Sure. Can I share my screen?
I believe so.
Okay, let me try that. So can everybody see my screen that says stormwater?
Yes.
And I apologize, I have 3 screens here in my in my little room, but okay. So stormwaters and greenways, as Loudon mentioned, we do have some flooding that exists in Copley Township. The township is divided into 3 watersheds: the Yellow Creek watershed, the Pigeon Creek watershed, and the Wolf Creek watershed. The importance of that is funding. So stormwater right now is being funded through watershed programs. And watersheds are affected by flooding because of total sediment in the water being reduced by reducing erosion, which then also has an ancillary, what granting agencies consider to be ancillary is flood control. So we performed a watershed analysis based on existing NPSIS plans. A NPSIS is a non-point source implementation study, NPSIS plan that is approved by the Ohio EPA and the US EPA. And if your projects are within those approved plans, they can be applicable for funding from the US EPA and the Ohio EPA, specifically Section 319, Stormwater and Habitat Improvement Grants. The plan also provides additional competitive scores for other grants, such as the Clean Ohio Conservation Fund grant application, WRRFP grant applications, which is through DEFA and Ohio EPA, and then the OPWC grants, as well as the H2 Ohio funding source that Governor DeWine put out most recently in the budget. So we tied the projects that are in the plan to those 3 watersheds, in specific, those 3 watersheds NPSIS plans. The NPSIS plan has been approved for the Pigeon Creek and for the Wolf Creek, and it was just actually, and this probably should, I should update this, this was just approved this month. So yay, Yellow Creek is approved, and so that portion of the township, if we can produce some projects for the plan, those can be implemented as a grant application. We did focus in on the larger of the watersheds. The Yellow Creek watershed really doesn't contribute that much area to the township, and the water travels north out of the township. So Yellow Creek is at the headwaters of the township. Whereas Pigeon Creek, you can see that's actually 59, 60% of the township. That's this area here. And so we did identify a lot of flood control and habitat improvement projects in that area. And those are not shown here tonight because they're very detailed, and I only have 2 minutes or 3 minutes to go over this. So I wanted to provide an overview of what some of those projects would be. And if you've been to Fairlawn or to Summit Metro Parks and have seen some of the wetlands in there, that's the aesthetic that these granting agencies want to see, which are stormwater wetlands that not only provide stormwater retention in a regional way, but provide habitat for fish and plant communities, as well as birds in a regional level. We also did identify additional projects in the Wolf Creek area above the reservoir, and then upstream of the reservoir, but then also adjoining the reservoir. And there, I'm going to give this over to Dave, I think, and he'll talk about utilities and stormwater, utilities, wastewater, and water. And again, my portion is very abbreviated because there is a lot of information in the packet already that was sent, and we'll have time for questions about those in specifics.
Do you mind going ahead and running it for me, Catherine? Or? Sure. Keep going. There we go. The next one. So what we did was, there were 2 things that we were looking at, was specifically the sanitary sewer system and the water system. On the sanitary side, on the map that's in front of you right now, in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a bunch of red lines, that is Summit County Sewer. And then you'll see some green lines kind of in the middle of the page. Those were owned by the city of Akron primarily as part of the JET agreement. And what we were tasked to do, we're looking at was, first of all, we had to understand how we best serve the entire township before we started looking at individual projects as part of the proposed 10-year capital improvement plan. So what we looked at was the layout, the lay of the land, which way was the water going to flow, and based on that, we were able to break up the township into the various components and various areas, sub-watersheds, if you will. And through that, then we came up with a game plan of whether or not trunk sewers would be installed, that's the orange lines, or if we'd have to have pump stations that would pick up the sewage from the low spots. And then we came up with an estimate of costs. It was somewhere between $75 and $80 million to do the entire township, which we understood was, obviously is not conducive. But the biggest thing about that is this plan provides an opportunity for the township as new developers come in, as developers come in for new development. There is an understanding of what should go where, and you can make the developer install some infrastructure that will be a part of a larger picture. So this is really important as the township continues to further develop, to understand where the sewage is going to go. So on the next slide, if you would, Catherine, this is the water system. And so there's the city of Akron provides water at this point. They have a certain number of water lines in there, and based on regulations that drive the entire industry, you need to have a certain amount of flow and a certain pressure with that flow in order to properly combat fire and to also then protect the system from having any kind of contamination of pulling water backwards. So you want to have a certain flow and a certain pressure. And in this case, the light blue, the various colors of blue are what would the Akron system, if it was extended as it sits today, could serve. And we're calling that the low pressure zone. We can go up to a certain elevation in flow in the pipes before you don't have enough pressure for people on the second floor to take a shower. You don't have enough pressure to fight a fire. So we divided it up into the different areas, the different colors of blue, again, primarily so that we could understand what's happening in each of those chunks, if you will, of the township. The dark green or lime green are what we're calling high pressure zones. Those are areas that cannot be served by the water lines as they sit today because they're higher than that elevation that we talked about for being able to take a shower and be able to fight a fire. So what we've been able to do through this system is we again broke it up into different chunks again, so it's manageable. But an elevated storage tank is what we're going to recommend in the lower left-hand corner there, and it can be anywhere kind of in that lower quadrant of the community. We just picked the highest spot. The highest spot in the township is also then the shortest tower that you have to put in. The elevation of the water stays the same. It's just where you put it makes the tower shorter or taller. But anyways, so what we did was we looked at interconnecting those high pressure zones so that one tower can feed all those different areas. And what we also looked at is how we can serve this area. We can get water in the elevated storage tank through Akron. We've talked to Barberton, and there is an interest there potentially. Have to be an agreement. We've talked to Wadsworth, and there's a potential there as well that we could provide water from different sources. It's still, I guess at this point, from a master plan perspective, we've reached out to the communities. The communities are interested, but it would take beyond our study to do for further investigation, further discussion, and potential, if there's a possibility of some kind of agreement somewhere down the road. So again, we did the entire township. And again, we needed to do that so we could understand what it would need to take, what it would take, or what would be needed to be able to serve the entire township. Again, this is somewhere in the $75 to $80 million range to do the entire township. Again, developers will do some of it. Township may want to do some of it in the future, depending on the development and depending on the needs. If you would, Catherine, and go on the next slide, and then we can talk a little bit about some of the costs. So what we did was, working with township staff, working with township trustees, we kind of came up with the top projects, if you will. We've got, I believe, 9 in sewer and 8 in water. And on the sewer side, we primarily concentrated on those areas that have not been served yet, but are still part of the JED. The first 5 projects, A through E, are all those types of projects. The first 4 are basically, 2 of them are west and 2 of them are east of the Copley Circle and Copley Road. And the 5th one is Copley Road at Jacoby. Those 5 are actually in the 10-year CIP as what, trying to spread it out over 10 years. Those are considered to be funded projects. The other 4, the subdivisions that are around Copley Circle, the high school, and some development, the existing development that is southeast of the high school, those are on this list. They're F through I. They're what were considered to be unfunded at this point. The key there is sometimes needs come up, funding becomes available, some different reason you may want to pull one of those unfunded and pull them into your 10-year plan. So this is kind of a pool or reserve of projects that the township could consider for the future. On the water side, this was a little different. This is not really based on JED. The water side, those are based on areas of concern that have been brought forth to staff and to trustees over the years from residents within the community. So those, again, the first 5 in this, A through E, are all within the 10-year capital improvement plan as funded projects. And the bottom 3, F, G, and H, are in the unfunded list, or project reserve, if you will. So this is the top sanitary projects, top water projects that have been identified through discussions with the community and are ready, then would be the next step to move forward in making improvements and providing service to the residents and or the businesses, depending on where this is at. So that's a nutshell of what we did on the water and the sewer side for this master plan.
All right, thanks, Dave. I think we have Michelle, I think is on now.
Yeah,
You made it.
I'm attempting to use, I'm using computer video and phone audio. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that, everyone. I was having some technical difficulties. All right, so the multimodal plan. Catherine, if you want to hit the next slide. So for us, the big thing on the multimodal plan is that we really wanted to focus on like networks connecting to other like networks. So for example, for anything that's on road, like a bike lane, for example, that's typically a very different user than maybe someone that would feel more comfortable being on a trail. So the different line colors that you're seeing on the screen, Catherine, if you go back one more. So the dotted green lines are on-road bike facilities, where everything else that is a solid line is some sort of off-road piece. And again, the like network to like network, that's important for funding, but it's also important to make sure that people are able to not just have a bike lane to nowhere or a trail to nowhere. So we did, a comprehensive look community-wide at what those different facility types could be, where they connected to one another, and then where they got people to places. Just like Dave and Catherine, I'm going to speed through this. So any questions, we're happy to answer. Catherine, next slide. So as a priority multimodal route, you're seeing the orange Ridgewood High School corridor, as well as the green Copley Township Park corridor. Those segments in particular, we feel from from the public involvement and stakeholder involvement, and especially some of the funding sources that are currently out there, they've been identified as top priority multimodal routes. That doesn't mean that they are, you know, necessarily more or less important than anything else on the map. However, the key reasons for these multiple segments being selected as a priority is that many of the other segments connect into the Ridgewood and Copley Township Park corridor. So we want to make sure that we're starting with the, you know, with the appropriate kind of spine on the network, and then everything else eventually connects in. That being said, just because they are shown as priorities now, if a funding source were to come up, and we know that there's multiple stimulus dollars coming through the Ohio Department of Transportation, as well as we're hearing that the Biden administration is going to have a much larger ARA type project like we saw in 2009 that has, you know, significant stimulus dollars. If a new funding source were to come up and that is specifically eligible for something that might not be shown on the priority corridor, that's okay. We want to make sure that we are fully, you know, taking advantage of the dollars that are available when they're available. This is being used as a guide, basically, as part of this capital improvement plan. Next slide. So from a cost perspective, we definitely are long-term. The one thing that we wanted to really focus on, as Dave talked about in particular, is making sure that what should be happening now has some identified funding sources with it. And then we also have some longer term goals as it completes out to the rest of the network. Federal funding is definitely something that is readily available, as well as ODNR monies for these types of projects. So we wanted to make sure that we were being proactive in identifying which segments were best suitable for the grant funds that are out there that we know of today. ODOT safety funding is a potential in the future as well. And then we also made sure that we were looking at when those application cycles actually were out, when design versus construction would actually occur, and then piecing and parting out within the plan itself of understanding what the design costs were, what the construction costs were, and more importantly for the township, you know, what % match are we looking at from an overall goal standpoint, from a fundraising standpoint. So with that, I think we can open it up to any questions, especially if any of those acronyms that people have questions about.
Questions?
I just want to say the Yellow Creek dividing line, remind everyone, is the Continental Water Divide. And that is Yellow Creek flows to the St. Lawrence River to the North Atlantic, and Pigeon Wolf Creek flow to the Ohio River and the Gulf of Mexico, and that is in Cotton. And that I think is important to remember. We're talking about a headwater. That's all. That's just my comment.
Were you able to hear that?
Yes.
So do we, Mr. Klein, you want to take back over? Are you looking for us to adopt this plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do something formal. But if you want to wait till the next meeting, like Dwayne alluded to, there is a final document that has been sent out, so we now have that on file. We can share that with you, and then, you know, wait the 2 weeks or so to have any questions answered between now and then. But, you know, if the board has any, get answers from EDG on those specifically, then adopt them. So I think they all did a great job. It's a ton of information to compile in a short amount of time. So it's a lot of engineering, technical analysis, but I think it'll be a great backbone for us to make some capital improvement decisions in the next 10 years. So, you know, again, we have priorities on there. We have, you know, projects that we think are best, but as we've also often talked about throughout this process, as opportunities come up, as things change, as a new development happens here, we can continue to evaluate what projects might move up the list. So a lot of good technical information. Dave mentioned the water and sewer stuff's really helpful to knowing feasibility for that, you know, elevations, pressure, all that stuff as we move forward in planning. So it's been a great opportunity to work with them throughout the year, just joining the township. You know, like I said, we'll have a full final document that we can get before you. We can get these slides to you and get any questions and then maybe do a final adoption at the next meeting. If Dwayne has any other thoughts, feel free to chime in, but I think Sylvia has a question.
Hi, can the public speak? I wasn't sure. And I couldn't find a hand in here to raise, so I'm raising my real hand.
Ma'am, not yet. There will be a section. This is still part of the special meeting, and
Okay.
then there is a business from the floor in the regular meeting. If we have time, we'll address a question, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Stay for a minute. One comment I want to make here is, in my tenure in the township, there's been a lot of discussion about stormwater, a lot of discussion when what we're going to move forward, what's the master plan as developers move in. And one of the comments that I believe Dave made was, as developers move in and they need a part of this plan, they can pick the part that serves their development time and still stick with a plan that will be able to be used as part of the backbone or part of the infrastructure to move forward in the future. I don't think we've had much of that in the past. I think there's been multiple attempts to try and come up with a plan. So I would like my colleagues to look over this with some in detail and scrutiny, and then get to the place where we can adopt this plan for other board members in the future, so they can see that something was set forth and we move towards that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if I may, I have a question. So I know we're getting toward the end of the 2021 grant cycle here. And I'm just curious, you mentioned if there's any opportunities that exist now. So I guess I'll ask that question to Dwayne and Michelle and company right now. Is there any opportunities as we sit here on March 9th for us to still obtain some grant or matching funds for 2021?
There are. We have seen some delays in program because of COVID in particular, specifically in 2020 when funding was just, I think the whole world was just kind of uncertain. So we do have some options of programs that are still out there for spring of 2021. Those are coming up really fast. But then also from the DOT side on the trail and multimodal component, there is some eligibility and some options for the fall.
Okay, so we're headed into our capital planning for 2021 here later on this month. And if there's going to be any matching funds that are required from the township for one of the specified projects, 10-year plan, it would seem to me that we know what that project is and what the match dollars are, so we can consider it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. So the timing works out great. Like I said, a lot of these have estimates, and they've outlined in that stack of the potential funding sources. And so we've got a lot of those in-house.
Okay.
So we'll put that together, and we'll have that as we plan for the capital budget to know what potentially would be our time as we look through the remainder of 2021.
Okay, and just so we're all on the same page for the EDG folks that are on the call, our capital budgeting process happens in about 2 weeks. Is that correct, Janice?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that doesn't push us past any grant cycles. If it does, yell at us now. Okay.
The bigger thing, most of the capital dollars that are out there, other than OPWC, do not require a formal adopted capital improvement plan. It's obviously very important to have that working document. The bigger thing is being able to understand, the match required. But OPWC, of all the ones that we've talked about related to this project, is the only one that does actually require the formal adoption of a 5-year SIP.
Okay.
Right, and OPWC, typically the applications are due in the spring, but you wouldn't have the money until the following year. So when we put together the capital plan on the sewer and water side, the dollars that we projected in 2021 are fairly light, in the sense that you probably wouldn't be in a position for any type of grant funding until 2022.
And I know for us on the multimodal side, when we were developing this at that time, we did not know that some of those grants were going to be pushed out. And so we actually have our first, for the multimodal section of the capital improvement plan, we actually don't start that until 2022, because at that time, we assumed that the deadlines were not going to be pushed back because we hadn't heard otherwise. So the first line item that you see in that capital improvement plan for 2021 to 2030 for the multimodal piece does start in 2022, not 2021. That doesn't mean that we can't push it up, but we, you know, that information was not available on the different deadlines that were moving around because of COVID.
Okay, but there are some that were pushed back that we might still be able to get this year is what I just heard, Michelle, right?
So the get wouldn't, as Dave kind of said, the get wouldn't happen in 2021. You would not be spending any dollars in 2021.
Okay.
You need
And that
to,
would-
you need to procure those,
Encumber.
right word. Encumber, thank you. You need to encumber those funds, you know, at time of application. So, but you wouldn't be, theoretically, you wouldn't be spending those in 21. You'd be securing the funding, and then as the grant money, the funds become available, that's when you'd be procuring those or actually utilizing those dollars on your match.
Yeah. But for example, the Clean Ohio Trail funding, it got pushed back very last minute into April, which is coming up, obviously. They don't make announcements for almost a year after the applications are due. Then by the time you go through, get the award, you know, when it comes to, you know, encumbering funds, you have some time. It's just making sure that we have those funds identified. That's where that local match becomes so important.
And in terms of stormwater, much like Michelle said and Dave said, that you apply for them in 2021, but your outlay, because it is March, by the time you get the award, get the contract with the granting agency, and get your contractor on board, it's a good 8 to 12 months, even longer, and then you'll have 2 to 3 years to spend that money typically.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to give my comment time to Sylvia so I can hear her question. Are you still there, Sylvia?
That was my next. Good to see you, Miss Chinlevy. Are you still there?
You have to open her mic. She's
Yes,
there.
sorry about that.
It's okay.
I just had a question. I think Michelle had a slide that showed the priority trails. And I was just kind of curious that there was a kind of a north-south line that was green, or trail that was green. It goes from Ridgewood down through, and I couldn't tell exactly where it goes, but I'm just kind of curious, how is the railroad somehow, what does that go through, I guess?
No, we do not have the railroad corridor there. The reason for the green line is the connecting to and from the Copley Township Park itself. And the reason that's so important is that getting people to places is always a critical component of most of the grant applications that are out there for something like a trail or a side path. So the reason for that is getting to and from the community park itself, because that creates a destination, whether it's recreational, transportation, it serves as a to and from residential to a community park.
So it's conceptual, it's not really, that's not necessarily the way the trail would run?
We took a pretty deep dive and looked at, you know, property ownership and utilities and, you know, any sort of easements out there. So the definite details get looked at. You know, this is a master plan that is related to a capital improvement plan, obviously. So at that master planning level, but this is much more than just a GIS exercise. We did go through and take a pretty major deep dive as understanding, you know, topography and average daily traffic and floodplains. And, you know, I would say it's more detailed than just a couple lines on the map, but obviously during detailed design, when we start getting into, you know, all of the nitty-gritty details as it relates to a construction document, said things can change based on what we actually find in the field, topographic survey in particular, if something comes up, you know, it's not absolutely set in stone, but we took a fairly deep dive in it where we are pretty confident that it, you know, is feasible. Does that answer your question, or am I skirting around?
Just one quick one. Does this somehow involve 3M Copley, or I know there had been some efforts in the past about contacting them or trying to get a trail somewhere near their property? And that's all I have.
For this project in particular, no, we did not work with any private property owners. You know, the bigger thing was just understanding where we would need easements and whatnot. So as part of the master planning and capital improvement project, this was definitely from a feasibility standpoint. Typically property owner notification and or coordination happens during that detailed design phase where we're actually working towards those construction documents. And sometimes if people, you know, especially, you know, we're seeing a lot of health and wellness being favored by employers and property owners. So sometimes when we do these plans and they see it, they'll come to us or the client and say, hey, we're interested in participating. This is great because we want our employees to be healthy and access, you know, to a facility like this.
I think, if I may just jump in, it is at a master planning level. So a cautionary tale, if you see a line on a map and it's going through a particular property, it doesn't mean necessarily where the trail is going to align on that particular piece of property. I think that's important to understand at this level, that you know, at the master planning level, we've had no discussions, and I don't believe the township has, in terms of property ownership and putting a piece of land on a certain property. So we have had that in other communities where people see a line on a master plan and then it becomes either, you know, not in my backyard, and it's not intended to be that on a specific piece of property.
We did get to the specific level though, Sylvia, of like, we're not bisecting anybody. You know, we did pay attention to, you know, how we were placing that line work, but Dwayne is absolutely correct and said it better than I did, you know.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Ms. Chinlevy, I appreciate your comments. We know your expertise as well. And along with all the other, any member of the public, if you have additional questions about this as we move forward, please email Mr. Klein in our Economic Development Office. Or his website or his email address is available on the township's website. With any questions, we'll try to address them all. Again, we're in the infancy of this. We're trying to do a nice master plan so it's carried on for decades past us. So if with that, in the interest of time, I'm going to close the special meeting at 6:47. I'm sorry, 6:37, and open the. Oh yes, I'm sorry. We'll have to.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor for adjournment of the special meeting?
Yes.
Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Okay, that meeting's adjourned. With that, now I will call to order the regularly scheduled Board of Trustees meeting on March 9th, 2021 at 6:38. If you're able, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome all the guests, and we have a lot of public online as well. I appreciate that as well. I'm not going to go through and name them all. In person, we have our Township Law Director, Mr. David Firestein, Fire Chief Chris Bauer, Police Chief Michael Meyer, Service Director Mark Mitchell. For trustees in person, we have Mr. Schulte, Mr. Colner, Mr. Dressler, our Township Administrator, Ms. Marshall is here. I'm sorry, Mr. Klein. I already mentioned him several times. And on the virtually, we have our Township Fiscal Officer, Ms. Pfeiffer. With that, we'll move to presentation, or I'm sorry, the Board of Trustees agenda discussion about the petition to submit the Tuscan Ridge Development LLC included into the Copley Akron Joint Economic District.
I'll move to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation specifically to this issue.
I will second. Any discussion about moving into executive session? With that, Ms. Pfeiffer, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Colner,
Yes.
trustee Dressler,
Yes.
and trustee Schulte.
Yes.
Okay, for the members of the public, we're going to move to an ancillary room so you can stay on. I hope this part of the meeting in executive session will remain very short and you can join, or we'll come back to this room to join the meeting as soon as possible. Thank you.
This conference will now be recorded.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we're done.
I apologize, we're muted there for a second. I apologize to the public for that meeting taking so long. We did the best we could to make it expeditious. We're going to continue on with the regular meeting. Ms. Pfeiffer, are you there?
Yes, good evening, Bruce, and good evening to everybody that has joined us. I just wanted to give you some updates. Back in January, both my fiscal assistant and I came down with COVID at the same time, so we lost a couple weeks in January, but we were able to close the 2020 year. The financial statements are available at the fiscal office. We have placed ads in both the West Side Leader and the Legal News. So anybody wanting to review them can do so. Another update, we're moving forward on our credit card processing. We had a meeting with designated department heads this morning. Michelle has designed the procedure for the assistants to follow. So all we're looking for now is the status of the credit card processing policy. Janice, can you give us an update?
Sure. So the procedure that we had talked about last meeting was sent up to fiscal, and the result was that Michelle Colopy took it and created a new procedure. So the policy is in place in the township policy manual, and it has been for months. This is a procedure that your office is creating, and I am out of it because Michelle has redesigned the procedure.
My question is, do we have to get board approval on that then?
We have board,
Before we can actually start using credit cards?
yes, we had board approval last time that the procedure that was going to be put in place was able to be started and tried, and if it needed tweaked, it would be tweaked.
Okay. Well, I think the board needs to probably see the new processing policy.
I think that it is was discussed at the last meeting, and it was approved for the administrative assistants to begin the procedure, and that we could move forward and have the public use credit cards. And as it went forward, we would tweak it as needed. It's an in-house procedure as to how it works.
All right. I didn't know if the board needed to take a look at it again. Okay, next I want to thank Chris Bauer. He came to fiscal looking for payments from the Attorney General. And it was brought to our attention that we needed to look at the original application. We found an error. There was a 2. There was way too many 2s in our account number. It has been resolved. Received notice just today that Jennifer Zapp and Life Force Management will be sending out those checks this week, so we will get them.
Ms. Pfeiffer,
Yes,
I'm going to ask Chief Bauer to explain more in depth there. So that's been an issue that's been going on for some time. And I need some clarity. And Chief, can you enlighten us?
I'll try. I'm still a little bit confused because the issue that I addressed with the fiscal office about a week ago was confusion between payments that appeared to be going from the Attorney General's collections activities into our regular ambulance billing company's accounts, which are then turned into various lump sum payments that go to the township. So the reason that I was confused when I went to the fiscal office last week is because I received an email that indicated there were payments that were directly deposited into the township's checking account. So I'm still confused as to where the money is going. Is it going into our account with our ambulance billing, or is it going into the township's checking account?
well, currently it's not going in either. That's why we're receiving a check this week.
So I was able to find payments under the account holder's name in the statements that we received from Life Force Billing. So are you saying that those statements are in error or incorrect, or, you know, here's
I'm
where
saying we have not received any money. There's no way it could have gone into our account because the account number didn't match up. That's why they're sending us a check this week.
So how do we receive money from our ambulance billing company?
We receive it by direct deposit into our account. We receive notices from the bank. They are then coded and put in your ambulance billing account.
Correct. That is my understanding. And
Right.
About a month ago, give or take, there was an email exchange, and I had sent you, and I think I might have copied Miss Iverson on this, where you can identify in the statements that we receive from our ambulance billing company that identifies these payments, right? So
Correct.
again, I'm not seeing clarity here as to where the payments are going and how we're getting them.
I have Janet Iverson here with me tonight. She's remote. Janet, would you like to add or address anything to this on this issue?
Yes, I can. Referring to Chief Bauer, what you said about the reports, Life Force Management records it on the monthly billing, but they don't actually deposit it into our account. They are just showing the recording from the Attorney General's office. What we found out was there was an extra 2 in our checking account number. So January and February's payments were bounced back to the Attorney General. They did not notify us that these payments were bounced back until I inquired with Life Force Management, and at that time she inquired with the Attorney General. They found out that we hadn't received any payments. So for January and February, they're going to send us a check. And now going forward, we should see those deposits directly into our checking account from the Attorney General, noted on Life Force monthly reports to us.
Okay, that helps to clarify. I guess I was confused because I took Ms. Pfeiffer's comments to mean we were getting a check from Life Force.
Okay. Yeah,
But
the check is coming right from the Attorney General.
okay, and then moving forward, we will get those electronically into our checking account, and then that will be credited to our regular ambulance billing revenue.
Yes.
Correct.
Is Life Force involved at all with the Attorney General?
Yes, they are.
Uh,
That's where they get the information from our delinquent accounts.
Okay, so we pay Life Force based on a percentage of what they collect. So if the Attorney General is collecting this money and we're paying them a portion of it for their collections, are we also paying Life Force a portion for their part in it?
I can check on that since it's a fairly new process to see if the 7% monthly bill we get from Life Force includes the Attorney General's funds, or if in fact Life Force is just recording it on our sheets.
Okay,
I
because,
can,
I mean, the sheets that come from Life Force also match the bank deposits. So apparently they couldn't have matched if the money wasn't actually put in the account. There would have been a discrepancy there. So I think maybe we need to look at Life Force and see what they're charging us and when they're charging us for the collect and where that money is really going. It should come from the Attorney General to our account directly.
Right. And that 10%
right.
comes out of the collected fees.
Correct. So we've
At the
already
Attorney
paid the
General.
Attorney General. We don't want to pay Life Force another 7% because they didn't collect it. That's why it went to the Attorney General.
Okay, thank you for the clarity there.
Thank you.
Okay. Am I ready to move on, Bruce?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Tonight I have also with me Michelle Colapi. She holds a master's degree, actually 2 master's degree in business administration and 1 in nonprofit business administration. She is going to be discussing the minutes procedures for now and in the future. But I want to go ahead and move on with my my little motions here. So we'll get these minutes approved. Motion to approve the Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes of January 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Discussion?
Yeah, discussion or additions, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Discussion or additions, correction.
I do have an addition correction. In the community and economic development section where we talked about extending sewer along Copley Road, the board agreed to pursue that plan, and it was pending legal review that the township will not lose any legal remedy it may or may not have against our JED partner Akron. I think that's important that it's in the minutes. Did you catch that, Michelle? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, with that correction or addition, I will table my motion until it's corrected so we can approve it next meeting. Would you like to table? You want to table or move on?
Well, can we approve it with that amendment?
Can we just approve the correction and vote on it?
That's fine. I procedurally, I don't know if that's how it's been done in the past.
No, that's how I would do it.
Okay. Okay, with that correction or addition, I'll call for the vote.
Russell, yes.
Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Ms. Pfeiffer, you ready?
Yes. Yes. Secondly, a motion to approve the Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes, February 9th, 2021.
So move Schulte.
Second, Colner. Discussion. I have a couple. There's missing, let me get to that page here. Missing some detail on, I have a bunch of notes on this. Well, one of the corrections is there was a motion made by Trustee Schulte to accept with regret the resignation of police officer Bruce Kasner effective February 26th. That is incorrect. That's the date of his vacation. That wasn't the date of his resignation. So that needs to be corrected.
Excuse me, Bruce, could you repeat that?
Yes, the motion made by Trustee Schulte to accept with regret the resignation of police officer Bruce Kasner effective February 26th, 2021.
And what date should that be?
Do you have the date?
I don't. The letter that was read said that that would be the last day that he worked. His intention then was to take vacation following that day, so that the last date of his employment, I'll have to check with Chief Meyer about what his last day is, but the day of February 26th was his last date to be reporting to work.
Yeah, he's going to be on vacation time until he burns his vacation time after that. Do you have the date, sir?
Janice, would you like to weigh in on this since you do payroll?
Yes, we received his time card today, and we had thought that the 26th was his last day. There was a payroll change form that indicated his last day was the 26th. His insurance was terminated on February 26th. He did take 4 days vacation, and then he actually worked on the 5th. So we had a notion of this before today, so we really need to know his last day, and if he needs to be reinstated, we would like you to advise on this.
Do we have the letter, his resignation letter, sir?
Yeah, I thought it was March 5th.
What was his
Which would-
last day working? March 5th?
Yes, well, that's what's coinciding with the payroll
Yeah,
sheet.
okay.
And I have instructed Selma to reinstate his insurance because he was told that he would have insurance through the end of March because he was working partial days in March. And that's our policy, is that insurance would extend to the end of the month of the last day.
So he in fact did work March 5th? Okay, so he could not have resigned and still been, okay, so we need to come up with, from the records, we can listen to the tape or look at the video and determine what the termination date of a resignation was, but we cannot terminate somebody or take a resignation from a employee that continued to work past that date. So regardless, then we'll need to figure out the correct date for that and repair it.
Can you get with us as soon as possible because it is payroll week? The cost to reinstate him will be $2,313.78.
Can you explain?
There's no cost to reinstate him on the insurance. We've called the insurance policy holders and they have reinstated him as of the February 26th.
What was the amount you were quoting, ma'am?
Well, that included his medical, dental, vision, and life insurance. We got that quote from my fiscal assistant.
It's the premium for the
additional
March
premiums
5th.
to pay in
Yeah,
March.
it's premium for March 5th. It's not a reinstatement fee. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. What was the other detail I'm missing on here?
It was on
But, you know, the minutes do reflect a February 26th date.
I'm sorry?
The minutes do reflect the February 26, 2021
And
as his
correct.
effective date. So my concern is when the auditors come in and they read the minutes, their question's going to be, why was he paid an additional 40 hours?
Right, that's why we're trying to clarify that.
Okay.
The date on the minutes are wrong, so we're not going to approve those. We will approve the appropriate date as soon as we get that date. And that can be found on the videotape.
Bruce.
Yes, ma'am. Did you have a question?
No, I just, somebody have a question? Are you talking to me, Bruce? My computer doesn't have a real loud speaker to it.
Okay. We'll We'll table the motion to approve those minutes until we get that date correct. Also on that same minutes under fiscal office, there was discussion about public information or public requests from open books, the closing of 2020 financials and creation of the credit card policy. There's not enough detail in here. The public has the right to know, be able to read these minutes and determine if there's discussion that goes on meeting after meeting. They should be able to go back and read the minutes and determine at least how the Board of Trustees made a decision. So we need some better clarity there.
You need some guidance. Michelle, would you like to step in now, please?
No, ma'am, I'm sorry. It's just there's not enough detail. We don't need guidance here. We just need more detail in this section. It just says bullet points. There was a public information request and discussion. There was discussion about it. There's nothing, there's no substance to the discussion process. Okay. So I will move to table that motion. I'm sorry.
I don't know who else motion.
Yeah, you second it.
Okay, I'll table.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to table the approval of the February 9th minutes. Ms. Piper, you have the floor again.
Thank you. At this time, while we're on the discussion of minutes, I have assigned all minutes to Michelle Colopy. She has some concerns. We need to be able to get these minutes out ASAP. We've been having issues. And so she would like to discuss the minutes. She does prepare them. We want to expedite them. We want to get them out. We want to get them right. So, Michelle, you have the floor.
Ma'am, if you're gonna, you'll have to come and talk to the mic. Thank you.
That's so people on the.
Yeah, so
So I
I'm
continue
sorry?
to get, I continue to get differing viewpoints of how you want the meeting minutes.
Okay.
So that even tonight, you want more clarity, but then when I put in the details, then you don't want that. So it does get very frustrating to do 3, 4, and 6 different edits of the meeting minutes. It is taking way too much time out of fiscal's work. So you folks, I would really like some truly defined.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop you there.
Okay.
Please do not address the board in the tone you're using now.
Well, it's just very frustrating to spend 15 hours on meeting minutes that continually get constant edits when you had a procedure that worked for you and it is now not working. And it is extremely frustrating to do the meeting minutes.
We understand that. The minutes that were done outside of the fiscal office for the past several months were done correctly, and we approved them routinely. When fiscal office decided to hire or asked to hire you to help in that, then we started having issues. And I'm sorry, the minutes were not done as they were previously, and they don't contain enough detail. I'm sorry.
And I understand that, so I will give you all the detail that is in the transcripts. I will give you all the detail you want.
Okay, thank you.
Bruce, I would like to shed some light on that. I, along with Trevor Groot, we had a nice conversation. I find out you even called him. The minutes must follow the recordings. They cannot be, things cannot be added that are not in the recordings. And this is where the issue is.
So, okay,
I'm
I'm sorry, I have to jump in here.
Yeah, enough.
Linda, we're not asking you to put anything in the minutes that was not in the actual meeting. If you listen to the recordings, you will see what was actually happened in the meetings. And all we were asking you to do is take what actually happened in the recorded meetings and put it on a piece of paper and give it to us. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been copied on over 40 emails because you guys can't get the damn minutes right. It's ridiculous.
Okay. Is that clear about the minutes?
No, it's not clear, but
Okay.
you know, if you want to go back to your old procedure, you're welcome to do so, but we will continue to do what our auditors require us to do.
So I like the little sly answer at the end of that sentence, Linda, but the bottom line is we want to follow the law and be as transparent as possible. Okay, we're not getting that result from the current process. So yes, despite the fact that the fiscal office is supposed to take the minutes, Mr. Chairman, I really think it's about time that we pull the minute taking out of the fiscal office and put it back where it was prior.
That is an excellent idea.
Because it can't be handled properly with the extra staff we've given you. There, I'll add on my little comment too, Linda.
Miss Pfeiffer, let's move on.
Thank you, Bruce.
We'll discuss that outside of your realm here.
Okay, that's fine. Janice, I'll need a resolution number on this next one.
There's one more motion for the February 23rd minutes.
Oh, okay, I missed that one, I'm sorry. Okay, motion to approve the Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes, February 23rd, 2021.
So moved. Colner. Okay, there's a couple things here that I have as well. It says in one sentence, it says under correspondence that Trustee Schulte gave an interview to Akron Beacon Journal about the fiscal office. Doesn't give any substance there at all. There's no information there at all, other than that one statement. And then and there's no detail on Mr. Klein's report as well. And that's very deep. That's very important as it moves on about economic development, the JED process and other things. So we need some more detail in that section as well.
So you're asking for details. If
Yes,
it's in the recording, the details will be there. If it's not, if the details are not in the recording, they will not be there. Of course, I may not be doing minutes.
Okay.
You want to amend?
I think there's too much to amend, so I would suggest we table this one as well.
So moved, Schulte.
Okay, all in favor to table, say aye.
Aye.
Colner, all ayes. All right. Ms. Pfeiffer, on to the resolution.
Janice, do you have a resolution number?
16.
16. 16.
16? Okay. Resolution approving the purchase order to Witchy and Firestein in the amount of $56,400 for legal fees of for 2021.
So move, Colner.
Second, Dressler.
Any discussion? Ma'am, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Colder,
Yes.
Trustee Dressler,
Yes.
and Trustee Schulte.
Yes.
So let me just review everything here. We've tabled the minutes for January 12th. We tabled the minutes
We
for
approved.
February 9th.
No, ma'am, we approved the January 12th minutes.
January 12th, okay. All right. You tabled the February 9th,
That is correct.
and you are going to get back with us on the cashier.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. We approved January 12th. We tabled February 9th, and we tabled February 23rd.
So there we go again.
Okay. All right. So,
On Kashner, let's go back to Kashner.
yeah.
We have payroll we have to get out on Friday.
the chair, I move the chair, then the fiscal officer's report. I don't understand. We're gonna redo the whole discussion. Could we move on, please?
Second.
Okay, we're gonna move past it. We've already discussed Kasner, and we will get the dates. We will reinstate his insurance through March as the policy manual states. And we'll get you the payroll, his payroll as it's supposed to be. So, do you have anything else for the Board of Trustees, ma'am?
Well, you had mentioned a program where we can have the Attorney General come in and work
Yes,
with the
I will
fiscal
address
office.
that now. I'll take the floor and address that now. I sent an email on Monday. I received a phone call, an unsolicited phone call from the state auditor's office, actually the state auditor himself, Mr. Faber. And he graciously offered, after, for some reasons, he offered some support to the township to help attempt to identify problems, offer possible solutions, and train personnel. With that, I told him I would bring it to the board for approval. Subsequent to that, on Monday, I received a phone call from Ms. Hendricks, the team leader for Ohio Local Government Support. And she stated that she had been instructed by her superiors to reach out to us to offer that same support for 20 hours at no cost to the township. So I'm going to read the response that I received from fiscal as well. So I offered this information to the Board of Trustees and the fiscal office so they could determine whether or not we should move forward with this. Prior to the meeting, they could do any due diligence they thought was necessary. Ms. Pfeiffer's response was, I'd like to invite all the trustees to our meeting and the department heads this morning to discuss how we're going to process credit cards, all designed by my own fiscal assistant, Michelle Copley. We are making great strides in fiscal to bring services and transparency to Copley. I am not understanding your actions against our department. By the way, this is directed solely at me. Is it because I am the only elected female? I too have talked with the state agencies and they're very supportive and listened to our concerns regarding your behavior. There are, period, two sides to every story. Nothing would make me happier than to bring Keith Faber's team in. Go for it, exclamation point.
Absolutely. He needs to come in and see what's going on. He really does.
You don't have the floor. Now, I would like to open a discussion about allowing the local government supports team in to help. I'm in favor of it.
You need a resolution, motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we allow them to come in and try and deal or try and help the fiscal office. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Dressler, second. Any discussion?
So in order to help somebody, the help has to be wanted.
Are you agreeing, Ms. Pfeiffer? Are you willing to accept this help?
You know, I'll tell you, I've tried to work with this board, and absolutely, if you can get them in here and they can tell me how to work with this board, I'm telling you, I would welcome it.
Okay, great.
We have issues. Trustee Colner and Trustee Schulte, you have both been invited to my office to learn the process. You have no idea the amount of work we do.
Ms.
None.
Pfeiffer?
You have
I'm going to stop you there. And it sounds like you're supportive. So I'm
That's not what I heard. What I heard is she's willing to accept some time and some training on how to deal with you and me. That's not exactly the training we had in mind, I don't think.
Ms. Pfeiffer, let's discuss a little bit here. There are some issues. We received an email from the chief.
The chair, I caution you discussing what you considered. I know she's a separately elected official. It's still a personnel issue of township employees to discuss it in a public meeting. I caution you that you need to vote on bringing in somebody in
I don't think you should be discussing this right now, right here. Bad idea.
That's good counsel.
Okay, I understand. We'll call for the vote and hope that this works well in our favor.
Are
So
you sure there's no cost?
there is no cost as long as we remain under 20 hours.
Okay, awesome.
So we'll call for the vote. Dressler, yes. Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Okay. Ms. Pfeiffer, anything else?
No, I just, I guess I'll work with the auditor on it.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't know if any of you have ever gone through an audit by the state, but they leave nothing unturned, nothing. And
Okay, thank
I
you.
can guarantee the public that
The
there's
board
nothing.
board still has a couple questions that we asked Ms. Iverson last meeting, and they relate to public information requests. So if you could give us an update on public information requests. The next subject is the misappropriation of funds from the fire department in the amount of $2,500 for the health and wellness equipment, and the misappropriation of funds of $210,000 from the for the ambulance purchase. And then there has been another email sent from Summit County Chief of Fiscal Office stating that our financials were not in order. Can you help us with any of those questions? We've been asking those via email.
Well, I can address the $2,500. I had to increase the certificate of estimated resources for the $2,500 before I could spend it. I had to get county approval on it. So once I did, which was March 4th, I went ahead and put the money in. That answers that question. The next question is on the ambulance.
I'm sorry, the resolution that was written to take the $2,500 from the general fund did not happen.
This is where you don't understand. You can't spend, you cannot, within UAN, you cannot spend, you cannot appropriate. You wanted me to transfer $2,500 out of the general fund and put it in another fund. You
Correct.
can't do
We
that.
do all the time. We do it routinely with the recycle grant and other.
You don't understand, Bruce.
I'm sorry?
You don't understand. You just don't understand.
Okay, okay. Hopefully
Can these issues be,
Okay, let's move on to the ambulance billing for the ambulance for
so we'll leave that up
$210,000.
to the local government support to come in and look at that one. Did you want to mention something about the ambulance fund?
Yes. Number one, the ambulance didn't cost $210,000. It cost $208,000. They put extra money in there. And I went to the fire department. I wanted a receipt for how much an ambulance cost. I talked to our auditor and he said that was a blanket certificate. It had to be a purchase order for the exact cost of the ambulance. It cannot be padded. It has to be the exact cost.
Thank you. We will have the auditor look at that as well. Thank you. And then can you give us an update, please, on the public information requests?
Yeah, Janet, go ahead with that one.
We've had, I think you were asking about 4 recent public record requests. The request for Linda's education was sent out, and there is also a copy available to the requester at Copley Township if she wanted to come and pick it up. The second one, there's 2 that were completed, and the only one that we have not sent was the payroll information, which I sent to you to review today. The FOP has been completed. So out of that, we just have the one pending.
Okay. And Ms. Iverson, did you receive the corrections that were in the corrections that we know of? We don't have the payroll records, so we don't know if they're all correct. But did you receive the corrections from myself and from Ms. Marshall on the payroll records request?
Yes,
Okay,
those have been done.
I'm sorry.
Yes, those have been done.
Okay, thank you. Good. Anything else for fiscal?
I
Okay.
just want to say one more thing. I welcome the Attorney General to come in.
Good. That's good. If we
He
open the
needs to
book,
know.
then
Thank you. That's it. That's all I got.
it's the auditor, not the Attorney General. Yeah.
No, you said the Attorney General's office.
Local government support, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Ms. Marshall, you're up.
Thank you. The only item I really have tonight, oh, sorry, I went the wrong way. Is to schedule a special trustees meeting to discuss the 2021 permanent appropriations. I did send out some dates, and I believe we've decided on March 22nd at 2 o'clock. So I would just like to announce a special meeting on March 22nd at 2 o'clock, and that will be a public meeting to discuss 2021 permanent appropriations. It will also be virtual, so people can tune in, and we will record it as well.
Do you need us to vote on that?
No,
No.
we'll
Okay.
just announce it and
Okay. Thank you.
put out a note. I'll put out a notice so that we're sure it gets identified as a special meeting. My executive session I don't need. I was anticipating needing it for contract negotiations, but I don't have anything new to report tonight, so we can disperse with that.
Thank you. Anything for Ms. Marshall?
At the end of last meeting, you mentioned about a homeowner that was not receiving homestead tax credit for their equity.
Mhm.
What was the outcome of that?
I called the city of Akron, and actually nobody receives that homestead exemption for water. It's for sewer. So it is a homestead exemption for Akron residents only, and it is on sewer, not water. His
Akron residents only.
Akron residents only for sewer, and his concern was not the sewer, it was the water.
But is that correct? When I read the JET agreement, it says we will receive the rates that Akron receives plus the 22% margin. So if an Akron resident is receiving a homestead credit on their sewer, the Copley resident should as well.
That would be a discussion that we could have with the city of Akron.
Mr. Firestein, would you mind looking at that for us? Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for Ms. Marshall?
Do you want to discuss the minutes?
Yeah, we did say we would discuss the minutes. So Mr. Schulte brought up that there's been over 40 emails going back and forth on minute corrections. Those are available to anybody who would like to see those as well, but it's just taking too much of our time. So I don't know of a solution. We review the minutes, as Ms. Copley mentioned, back and forth many times. We've never had this issue, and we've had several people doing minutes in the past. So do we want to entertain a different method of doing the township minutes?
Yes.
What would that be? You have any suggestions?
I think we should.
First, can I speak?
Take it. You button on
Hey,
that?
just Ms. Pfeiffer?
think-
Mr.
Yeah,
Schulte
go
has the floor.
ahead.
Mr. Schulte has the floor.
In my opinion, we should take it back and put it in the administrative up front, have Beth do them again. And we can review what kind of man hours savings that is from the fiscal office and seek appropriate schedule adjustments from there. But I think it's important that we get the minutes done timely and we don't have 40 emails every couple of weeks discussing them. And we spend a half hour in a meeting, public meeting to correct them.
The minutes were nearly 4 months in the rear, and it took multiple personnel hours to get them to the place now where we're sort of close getting caught up.
All right, we all know the issues. The fiscal officer is the secretary of the Board of Trustees for the meetings. And if she agrees, then we can take that over. She, I think previously has already stated in this meeting, she would be happy to let us do that.
Okay.
Can we just do that then?
Ms. Pfeiffer, would you
Yes.
like the administration personnel for the Board of Trustees to do the minutes from this point forward?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Would you like the administrative personnel that are employed by the Board of Trustees to do the minutes from this point forward?
That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Do we need a vote on that? I don't think we do. Okay. All right. Chief Bauer, you're up. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So the first issue that I have for the board tonight is this is a yearly grant that we apply for. It's usually successful almost all the time, and it's a reimbursement grant. So this is a motion granting permission to apply for the 2021 Ohio EMS Priority Training and Equipment Grant. As I said, it is a reimbursement grant, but we would not be able to encumber those funds until we know how much the grant is. So this is the application process, and then we would notify the board what results we get.
So moved.
Second, Colner.
Oops, sorry.
Sorry. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote.
Dressler, yes.
Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Thank you. The next motion that I have for you is to accept with regret the resignation of Heather DeSwaldo as a part-time member of the Catholic Fire Department effective March 1st. This was her requested effective date. Obviously, it's retroactive.
So moved, Schulte.
Second, with regret, Dressler.
Any discussion? Thank her for her time. I worked with her many, many years. I'll call for the vote.
Dressler, yes.
Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Thank you. I do have just a couple more things, but the executive session issues that I was going to have for tonight, excuse me, I know this is going to turn into a long night for the board, and I can boil these things down to an email later, and just we can start off.
Is there anything that you would need to have the vote in public? Thank you.
No, and I did want to remind the board that last week I sent out the monthly activity report for February. Excuse me. We are still importing data, so looking back and comparing to last year is something that you'll see in the coming months, but we're about 80% through our transition to a new records management system. I can tell you that we had a record high call volume for January and our second busiest February ever this year. That puts us 18% above where we were this time last year. The other thing that I wanted to make sure the board was aware, and we're very thankful that the next round of COVID-19 vaccinations are including our police officers. I know I, for one, am looking forward to being able to hug Chief Meyer without breaking protocol. Everybody knows he kind of wears his heart on his sleeve, and I think everybody will enjoy it.
He's juggling after that.
No, I'm a straight face. It's a straight face here, and I think that's all I have for the board, unless you have anything.
Anything for Chief Bauer? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chief Meyer. Chief Meyer, while you're walking up, I have some information from the county that I just received earlier today, that there are counties now that are less populated that have a large number of vaccines available. So if any of your personnel want to travel to another county or primarily south of here, you probably can get the COVID vaccine relatively soon.
Well, we did have a discussion with the Summit County Health Department today, and they've arranged 2 days next week, it looks like, when our officers that are interested can receive the vaccine.
Oh, good.
And I truly appreciate the heartwarming report given by the fire chief. The only item I have this evening is the monthly report for February of 21 with the look back to February of 2020. Oh, it's on the screen. Okay. The only thing to note is there were a large number of arrests in February of this month compared to last year. Not sure exactly why. COVID had not quite yet started February of last year. So for some reason, the arrests were way down. But we did double check that, and we did have a large number of arrests in February of 2021.
The task force?
I think the task force was the reason, was part of the reason for that. I think it's also some of the cases that got caught up on some people that were arrested previously who charges were not brought against at the time until the results came back from the crime lab as to the verification of the drugs they had from prior incidents. I think it's a little bit of an anomaly.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Anything for Chief Meyer?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening. Two requests for the board tonight. One is approval of a resolution to enter into a 5-year memorandum of understanding with Summit County Public Health for the EPA NPDES requirement. They will do the stream monitor, outfall monitoring, bacteria testing, dry weather screening required by the EPA on an annual basis. This is a 5-year agreement. We did have an agreement with them back in 2013 that lasted until 2018. Then they did a couple year extensions because the EPA wasn't sure what they wanted to do. But now they've asked to go into another 5-year agreement. Total cost of the 5-year agreement is $9,276.76.
So moved, Rustler.
Second, Colner. Discussion?
This is number 17.
I'm curious, if we were to elect to become a home rule township within the next 5 years, what impact would that have on this?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't know how that would affect this, whether we would be responsible for it or if we could still take advantage of the county agencies that do this type of work for us. I'd have to find out on that.
Or if we could exit at that point. And I'm looking at the term and how you get out of it. And I'm just curious that we should have that exit path.
That's possible. It's something that we could do, but I can't answer your question on whether we would be responsible for all of the dry weather screening or not. So I can find out for you.
Thank you, Mark.
It's a national.
Right, but the question is who does the work is the question. And if you elect home rule, does it have to come back to somebody else in the township, or can we continue to contract with them?
I see what you mean. Those same situations that were involved with the school, with if you were a city school,
right,
exempted or not, because the county or you don't. I know what you mean.
So I just think from the board's perspective, it would make sense that we keep our options open, or these type of agreements at least have a home rule out.
This comes down to less than $2,000 a year.
Right, it's not a big amount. I just, what if we enter this agreement and all of a sudden it precludes us from doing home rule if we so choose?
I don't think it would preclude it.
I don't think we have an option to not do it.
Right. So could you make this a 1-year agreement, renewable, instead of a 5-year agreement? Is my point. I'm just thinking aloud, gentlemen.
Those are good thoughts. I understand.
Yeah,
Do you
Mr.
not?
Dresser's correct that we do have to do this.
Yes, sir.
Right.
It is part of it. And
But do we have to do it
probably
in 5
possible
years?
that we could either do it in-house, which we don't have the expertise to do, or we'd hire it out to a firm. So
Correct.
with the county doing it, you're getting this excellent pricing here. So
I absolutely agree.
and I know where you're going with it. So
My guess is it would not preclude any home rule thing if they decided, any board decided to go home rule, because we do other things in conjunction with the county or other agencies.
Right.
It doesn't really.
This is just one
Right.
One of
minimum
many.
control measure
Right.
of 6 that we do for the EPA for this particular
Right. Okay.
NPDES.
I'm just suggesting at some point, if we've had these discussions about home rule before, and at some point, if we're going to pursue that we need to consider the impact on all of these agreements with the county. That some of that would have to come home and be done and serviced by somebody other than the county. So just suggesting, I don't know if we want to ask our legal eagle to take a look at that, how it overrides or conflicts with home rule or not. Or if you want to change this so that we have a home rule out. Those would be my comments.
If we want to do that, then I will have to go back to the county health agency and see if they're willing to change this. These 5-year memorandums are for all of the co-permittee townships in the county, because we're all on the county's permit.
Right.
So we're all piggybacking on the county's permit. So
okay.
I don't know if they can do a special permit for us, or I'm sorry, a special MOU for us on this or not. I wouldn't be able to answer that for you. Something we could explore, but I can't give you an answer on that tonight.
Could we table and maybe have an answer in 2 weeks?
Do you have a deadline here?
No, it's a 5-year agreement. I don't know of a deadline that has to be met on this, but we do have obligations, to get these outfalls checked. This calls for 20% yearly. We've got 72 outfalls, so divide that 72 by 5. We got to get, got to have something in place. Got to make that report every year of what outfalls were checked. I get that total complete report. What outfalls were checked, the levels of the bacteria, if any found, dry weather screening, that all has to be done annually, even though it's covered under a 5-year MOU.
Okay. But it is dry weather discharge. We don't exactly.
But it's also enforcement there. There's also, because I can contact them and say, hey, I found an illicit discharge, and they take the ball and they run with it.
Right.
So that's not just the dry weather screen and check for bacteria, but it's also enforcement.
Got it.
Mr. Mitchell, would it give you any heartache if we?
No, I don't think so. I can go back to them and ask them.
Okay, I would appreciate it. If it's not impeding anything, if we can get some information.
They're not necessarily out doing it right now with the weather, but
it might be soon.
I'll bring it to the board next meeting.
Thanks, Mark. I really do hate being on your side.
I understand where you're going with it.
The motion was by Mr. Dresser. Do you want to table the motion? Table's fine. Yeah, we'll table. All in favor of tabling the motion? Say aye.
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 Very good.
Thank you.
Next request I have is for a motion to allow myself to submit a request for engineering to Summit County engineers concerning a possible pull-off area that we could have constructed on north of the Cleveland-Masson Road Bridge over the reservoir. This is something that would create a safer issue. I may have to ask Chief Bauer for some help on this, but we do have an existing dry hydrant just south and west of the bridge itself. In order to draw water out of the reservoir, you have to have 2 pieces of apparatus. The engine would hook up to that dry hydrant, then the tanker would pull up next to it and they would pump into that tanker. We'd have to close the road down in order to do that. The proposed location, and you should have a picture of that in your docket, your packet. It's up there. You'll see the red, white stripe area that we're looking at to possibly install a pervious pull-off area so the fire engine could pull off and get off the road. Then when the tanker pulls up, now we're only closing one road. Well, I'm sorry, one lane of the road. A little safer. The engine could stay in position. I believe that the engine would have to pull out of there in the old location. That one's been in there since the 80s, I believe. Chief, somewhere around there.
It's been inoperable for a long time. Okay. So not only do we
We need one there in that area for water supply, but we also need safer, as you mentioned.
So
Part of
move
the
Schulte.
area, I'm sorry.
So move Schulte.
Second, Jocelyn.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Call for the motion. Call for the vote.
Jocelyn, yes.
Palmer, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Very good. I'm sorry, I have to request an executive session, very short, for hiring of personnel in the service department. I guarantee you it'll be real short.
Thank you, sir. Anything for Mr. Mitchell? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Klein, said it right today.
Good evening, everyone. My first item is discussion on Cleveland Massillon sidewalk improvements. We discussed this at the last couple meetings. The board had asked me to bring a couple proposals or options before you. I realize I'm presenting these verbally tonight, so I can put them in an email after the meeting if you want to chew on them for a little bit. The first option is for the board to cover the entire cost and pay for the improvements. So the estimated cost was around $47,000. The county engineer is going to ask that we just submit a flat $50,000. And then, whatever the estimate comes in for, that's what, we would be paying for, but they'll ask for $50,000 to be deposited, just a, I think, a safety measure for that amount. So that's option one, we pay. Option two, we cover a portion of that cost, and then we assess the property owners the remaining amount. So one example would be just the cost of the sidewalk itself. So not the, mobilization, not the excavation, anything like that, is around $28,000. So one option would be to, assess the property owners at $28,000. The Board of Trustees covers the rest of the amount. So, you're looking at, 7 property owners approximately. I don't have that exact number because, we basically sent the county engineer the section we want to include. I don't know if they extended it because there's sidewalk that goes 1 parcel deep. So I've got to get with them on the exact parcel, amount of parcels, but, 7 property owners approximately. So $4,000 a piece would be, what if you assess them evenly. I've seen some communities assess, the same amount to all property owners. The Ohio Revised Code does say you can assess proportion to benefits accruing on the property. So if one parcel has 100 feet of frontage and one parcel has 80, it might not be fair. I mean, it's up for interpretation how the board decides to proceed, but you could assess based on, the portion that you own and the cost of that amount. So everyone's still paying that would be assessed, all the property owners, but just the amount would be varied. So again, option one, pay the entire $50,000. Option two, pay a portion of the cost. So we can, like I said, you can look at different things. You could split it down the middle. You could just pay for the walk itself. You can adjust that as you'd like, and I can send more detail on the cost breakdown if you want to pick, like I said, pick the walk or just pick a certain element of it. The third option would be that the trustees covers the cost of the improvements, pays the $50,000, and then assesses all property owners the entire $50,000. Again, over a period of time. Seen 10-year period. I think if you go with option B, where you assess a portion of it, you probably look at a smaller time frame because it'd be a much less amount. But those are the 3 options we believe are the fairest options, I should say, all within the parameters that the Ohio Revised Code provides the township. It clearly states we can pay for the whole thing, we can assess them the whole thing, or we can assess them a portion. So
no grants available that we know of?
The best grant probably would be the Safe Routes to School grant, but we need a Safe Routes to School plan in place. So that's something that we actually have been working on, to try and have a walk and talk with the school, because you got to do a lot of educational elements to get the plan going. But I think that's something we want to get in place, but we don't have that plan adopted in order to qualify for those funds. That's probably the best use of them.
Is there any of the property owners asking for the replacement of that as well?
I don't have anything in writing, but in my conversations with them, I know several of the property owners have asked me when something's going to happen there. So I think they're definitely interested in it. I haven't yet been able to make contact with the school, but it's something that, definitely a conversation should be had with the school. It's obviously important for them to connect the residents to the school. But I think there's definitely support for the sidewalk to be done.
Well, in the interest of time, I probably have several questions.
Sure.
Like, I'm not familiar with what other communities have done. So I would appreciate the opportunity to come meet with you one-to-one.
Sure.
Get those questions answered and then move forward. Anybody else have any more questions about that?
Well, we also have a meeting tomorrow to discuss capital projects with development and community and so forth. So maybe that would be an
Yeah.
opportunity
Okay.
to ask those questions.
I'll get something out in the morning, what I presented here to you tonight, so you can see those in advance. And like I said, I can throw out some different numbers so you can see if you want to do the pay for a portion and assess a portion. So we'll move forward on that. My next item is discussion, just a normal water and sewer update. So I just wanted to provide a few quick facts on the water and sewer district establishment that we talked about at the last meeting. I just wanted to let you know kind of how that process unfolds. If you want me to continue to pursue it, I'd be happy to put a little bit more into it, maybe see how another community established theirs and talk with them through the process. But we can establish one as being an unincorporated area. It's common for water and sewer districts to either have water received from a municipality or affluent diverted to a municipality. So my example here is we don't have water treatment plants here. We don't have a tower or anything like that. So we would have to work with the municipality. So that's very common. Twinburg Township uses the city of Cleveland. Jefferson Township in Columbus uses the city of Columbus. So it's a common example because I'm sure that question would come up. So we provide a lot of information to create the district, the name of the district, the mission, the purpose. It's very much based on public health, safety, and welfare. We've got to have a lot of reasons behind that. So, hold a public hearing, get some feedback from the community, and then it's handed over to the Court of Common Pleas. So then they hold a preliminary meeting and they basically review what we've submitted. If they believe it's worthwhile and it supports the mission of that, then they basically give us the go ahead. We develop a plan for the projects we want to do, how we fund it, because they realize, it's not going to be generating revenue as it is. So you've got to have a plan to fund it until it starts generating revenue and you have customers. And then they'll make the final decision. So once we, provide that additional material, they can make the final decision. They can put caveats on it, like we want to decrease the district. You're looking at too big of a district. We want to bring in the county to oversee you, kind of as like a chaperone on the project. So there's different ways to go through the common pleas on that, but I have seen several other townships have the districts. Bath actually has one, but I don't know how involved it is. You do submit through them to kind of get water and sewer, but it's ultimately through the city of Akron for everything. So I just wanted to highlight how that's created, that process, just in general format. But if the board wants me to continue, I can continue to develop some more materials on that.
Do we need a motion to that effect?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I certainly want you to continue.
Yeah.
I don't want to put money into a sewer going up and down Copley Road and just give it away.
Sure. So I'll keep plugging away on it. I just wanted to provide some general information on what we were looking at, it's feasible and so forth. All right, thank you. And then my last item is the monthly report. So I don't have the whole monthly report up here just because we're only through 2 months, but I sent it to you in your email. Quick highlights: 16 permits processed, total valuation just under $1 million at 917,000. An increase compared to January, so that's always good. And 4 new single-family homes constructed. So continuing to plug away. Excited to see what this year brings compared to last year. So that's all I had, unless the board has anything else for me.
You know I do.
I figured as much.
I'm sorry, Loud.
No, it's
This
good.
is my favorite time.
This is good. I like to try and be on my feet.
So last week we approved the CIC designation agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back to in January, we talked about transferring the old fire station number 2 and the properties north of the town hall to the CIC. Now, since that designation agreement is in place, it would seem appropriate that this board takes some action to actually move those properties to the CIC.
Well, the CIC hasn't approved it yet.
The CIC will be voting on it Tuesday night, next Tuesday, March 16th. So, I'd be happy to share information. We have shared information previously on township-owned properties, just.
The CIC is voting on the designation agreement.
Correct.
Got it.
Yep.
So I'm premature in this, is what you're telling me.
Well, yeah, I mean, we would want to make sure that's in place before we do move forward with any of the transfers. Kind of that's the process behind it, but.
See you in 2 weeks. Tuscan Ridge is here asking entry into the JED. We've had other discussions already this evening about JED materials. I know we've been begging, pleading, trying to get a meeting with Akron to discuss JED issues. Is there any update on them actually having a conversation with us about anything?
Yeah, so I have taken the initiative to have as a productive meeting as we possibly can with the city of Akron. With that being said, the previous meetings have been very broad in scope. We obviously talked with them about using some JED funds to construct sewer and look at new projects. We feel like it'd be best use of everyone's time to move forward with some concrete information on some of the sewer stuff that we're talking about with EDG, with Sunset Drive and CISO, and get a little more concrete numbers, more smaller projects for actually to go at them. So hopefully, in an ideal world, they can take something back to council, they can take it to their superiors, engineering department can chew on it. I think if we have some real cost estimates and we have some real schematic designs, not full detail, but then they can go back and look at that. So I've communicated that to them. They were communicating to me a few months ago about a meeting, but I felt, or I should say we felt that it would be best to have some more concrete information before we get everybody together. So I think they're working with us on that when we're ready.
So there's no date certain as we sit here today. Do we know specifically what more additional information we need to provide? I mean, at what point are you gonna have enough information to have a meaningful discussion?
I think the information that EDG provided helps. I think it would be important to actually have a specific project. My thought would be the first project that we would be looking at would be, Sunset Drive and some Copley Road sewer incorporated in that. So that's part of their design. Part of that is related to the Audubon agreement, which I'm going to go follow up with the property owner here. I wanted to give him at least a week or so to, have his attorney look at the agreement. But that's the course of action I went with on that.
If I could just interject also. So that's part of the reason for the meeting tomorrow, because there's so many projects and so many varied grant applications and matching funds and resources that are going to be required to do all of these different projects. So if we can narrow it down now that we do have some information from EDG, we can prioritize. I know we have said that we want to do all sewer. There was more discussion today about if that was a feasible solution or not. So the reason why we encouraged Loudon to schedule a meeting with just his department to just discuss these issues was to get some further guidance from the board as to what specific projects we want to put in the budget in 2021. And then I feel that Loudon would have more information to be able to go to the city and say, in 2021, we're doing this project and it's going to cost this amount of dollars and we would like your participation up to this point. So until we have clear definition as to what programs and projects we're attacking in 2021 and then in perhaps 2022, just to go to them and say, we'd like to put sewer in, doesn't give them enough information. So that's kind of the point of some of the meeting tomorrow as well.
Good. I know you're disappointed, but that's all I have tonight.
All right. Anything else for Mr. Klein? Thank you, sir. Any old business? None? How about new business? Correspondence.
I do have 2 items of correspondence. I received a letter from Stouffer Realty Incorporated to the Honorable Trustees of Copley Township and also to Honorable Mayor Horrigan as Chairman of the Copley Joint Economic District. Dear Sir, Madam, the purpose of this letter is to request the removal of our properties from the Copley-Akron Joint Economic Development District. The attached map shows the properties in question. It has become apparent after several years of marketing that the properties owned by the undersigned have a major disadvantage in the marketplace created by the lack of governmental incentives to allow for the best and most productive use of the properties on South Cleveland-Maslin Road. While development has occurred all around our properties, and with construction of the major road improvement, potential buyers continue to look at other properties with tax incentives to build and operate, such as provided by the cities of Fairlawn, Akron, and the Medina County corridor leading into Medina. With the addition of sewer provided by Summit County, the JED contract is not providing services to the properties. The failure to provide economic development incentives for our properties is creating a hardship that directly affects the value and development of our properties, and a hardship for Copley residents through loss of property tax income that has required Copley Township to request additional millage for safety services recently. As such, the undersigned request under the terms and conditions of the Copley-Akron JED that the properties be removed. We look forward to your response, and it is signed by 6 of 7 property owners.
Well, that leads us back to the comment we just made, Mr. Klein, that we need to get a JED board meeting together to discuss these issues.
I'm not sure if anybody's counting, but at this point, we now have a total of 10 property owners that have requested to be removed from the JED in the last year.
Okay, well, again, I mentioned some time ago that personally I have a short leash on trying to get a meeting with them and discuss these issues. We're going to have to do something soon. So I hate to put you under the gun, but you're under the gun. Okay. We have to represent these folks. They're not getting sewer from the city of Akron. I don't know if they're hooked to Akron water. If they're not getting the JED amenities, they should not be in the JED. Any other correspondence?
Yes. A second letter to the Friends of Copley. On behalf of members of Copley American Legion Post 473, Legion Auxiliary, and the entire community, we extend our most heartfelt thanks and sincere appreciation to your group for assisting with our Memorial Day parade and ceremonies. Your contributions, presence, and participation adds to the true sense of community, displaying the reverence, honor, and respect this day signifies. We are asking your group to pencil us in for Memorial Day, Monday, May 31st, 2021. At this time and foreseeable future, it is impossible to make definitive plans. As with all our lives, everything is in a holding pattern. As soon as any decisions and plans are made, we will contact you. Since having managed this activity for so many years, much of the details are well established and will be the same. Thankfully, this will make activation of our plans much easier. If when we decide to go ahead, things should easily fall into place. Some changes are, of course, possible. The Memorial Day parade and ceremony is a vital activity in our community. Having to cancel last year was a very difficult decision, but the right thing to do. Thank you for your years of participation, contribution, cooperation, and now understanding in these unsettled times. Our best wishes and sincere thanks, Michael Carruthers, Kathy Funduck Carruthers from the Copley American Legion Post 473.
Do we need a motion to pencil it in for the, I fully support it, so.
I don't think we need a motion.
No.
They want
Yeah, okay. I would just convey to them they have our full support with whatever decision they make.
to participate, and we have some traffic control.
Any other correspondence?
No.
Okay, business from the floor. Any business from the floor? Okay. Sir, would you please state your name and then if you're a township resident or not?
Yes, my name is John Slater. It's Slagter. I am not a township resident. My address is 950 Main Avenue, Suite 1100, Cleveland, Ohio, 44113. And I'm an attorney with the Tucker Ellis Law Firm. I'm here this evening with a representative of my client, Pat Ricosi, who actually is a resident of Copley Township. My clients are Redwood Living and also Tuscan Ridge Development Company, LLC. I know that your council has received a letter from me relating to our petition to be actually included within the JED district, will not necessarily repeat some of the other discussions we had, just because I know you may be familiar with the issues, but since the last meeting in which you agreed to table this matter, we reached out to your council. We actually scheduled and had a call with council for the city of Akron. Your economic development director was on that call, just to explore again the request by Akron that we be included within the JED in order to get water. There is no question they were insistent that they will not allow us to have water unless we're within the JED, and specifically because they consider our use a commercial use. At that point in time, we did some additional research. We found that the Ohio Administrative Code Department of Taxation actually identifies activities where you have more than 3 units, apartment units on property as a commercial operation. So there is at least some level of reasonableness in terms of, and rationalness in Akron's decision to do that, especially when you consider the purpose for which the JED was adopted was to allow for the creation of tax revenue. So there would be a benefit. The actions by Akron, appear to at least be based on some level with the revised code. We would again request that the Copley Township grant the petition to allow us to go in. Just by way of background, also, in researching this issue a little further, specifically under section 17 and 18 of the JED agreement, it requires both the city and the township to cooperate and use their best efforts in implementing the JED. And we think that clearly, there is a duty upon both of these parties to do that. And there can be arguments between you and Akron, who's using the best efforts, or are you guys cooperating? I don't want to speak to that, but as I look at the facts in this particular case and this matter, there really is no, in our opinion, legitimate reason to deny water for this site. It's a site that would be consistent with your zoning, consistent with your comprehensive plan. It's already received all of the approvals except final site plan approval, but everything that needs to be done is done. Additionally, it's been, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars putting the development together, and the property owner will lose the sale of this if this thing does not go through, and we'll have no other choice but to have the courts determine what the proper course is. And we don't want to go down that route. Obviously, we have worked with Copley in the past. We've always had a good relationship. We think in this particular case, it is a proper case to allow this to occur, especially because this is the last undeveloped piece of property within the PDD, which was designed, and the whole purpose is.
Please explain TDD.
It's the Planned Development District of your community.
Okay.
And
I thought you said T, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. With masks, it's very difficult. So the PDD has existed and really was part of when the JED went in place and was recognized. And it requires really, it anticipates centralized sewer and water. And the property cannot be developed consistent with the zoning without that. And so based on those reasons, we respectfully request that this body grant our petition and allow us to be included within the JED agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have one comment about it.
Sure,
Just
I wouldn't reply.
I do have one comment.
Ask counsel if you can reply. This is.
I have a question, Mr. Firestein. He made a comment about us denying water. I want to make sure that they know we don't control the water.
Yeah, I mean, I think they understand.
Okay, okay.
I mean, Mr. Slater states that in his letter to us, that
Okay.
the city controls the water.
Correct. Right. Okay, that's, I just want to make clear that statement. All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other business from the floor? Okay. Then I will make a motion that we go into executive session for the purpose of possible litigation and for the employment of personnel in the service department. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Piper, will you call the roll, please?
Yeah, trustee Colner,
Yes.
trustee Schulte,
Yes.
and trustee Dressler.
Yes.
Okay, we are in a short recess and we will pick up, should we go back to the other room for?
Where we can, why don't we stay here? Instead
They
of.
don't have a place to go.
Are they staying?
Are you staying till the end of the meeting?
Hey,
It's,
Bruce,
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one question.
We're in recess. You have a question
Attorney
for me?
General contacted you? Is that
Ma'am,
correct?
Is it a question for me? The board is recessed.
No, just you, Bruce. I do.
Go ahead.
I'm curious.
Go ahead. I couldn't hear the question, ma'am.
Okay, you said the Attorney General contacted you? Is that correct?
No, that's incorrect.
Oh.
Keith Faber, the March.
This conference will now be recorded.
We're back in public session, March 9th at 9:47 p.m. I'll make a motion. What's the gentleman's name that we're hiring?
Shane Pasterchuk.
I make a motion that we hire Shane Pasterchuk in the position of service.
Second, Schulte.
Any discussion?
Conditional.
No, this is conditions. We already did that.
We're
This
confirming
is
it.
permanent. Okay, do we need a resolution or a motion?
Just a motion.
I'll call for the vote.
Dressler, yes.
Colner, yes.
Schulte, yes.
Any other business before the Board of Trustees? Okay, I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Colner made the motion, Dressler seconded. Call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye. Colner, aye. Dressler, aye.
Schulte, aye.
Schulte, aye. Sorry. We're adjourned.
Good.